Hey everybody, welcome to my show, Mid-Rock Crisis, show which we try to save rock one band at a time. I think you know about the New York Dolls. Are you sure? New York Dolls, an American hard rock band formed in New York City in 1971. And don't call them punk. Albums became the most popular cult records. Why? Not because of what you think. David Johansen on vocals, Johnny Thunders on guitar, Arthur Kane on bass, Sylvain on keyboards and guitar, and Jerry Nolan on drums. And the latter two had replaced Rick Rivets and Billy Mercia. They costumed, mostly androgynous, high heels and strange hats, long poofy hairstyles, but of course, they weren't gay. Anyone who thinks they were just didn't get it. And that was me at that time. How about you? More glam than punk, more Stones than Beatles. They were going to make the big time, but didn't. Was it too much too soon? If there had been more albums, more shows, more time, surprise, these guys they could actually play their instruments. And they could rock. And they looked good doing it. Hands down. The Sex Pistols, Kiss, the Ramones, the Damned, and the Smiths all claimed the Dolls' paternity. Morrissey, singer with the Smiths, organized a Dolls reunion of surviving members, and this resulted in 3 new albums. Sylvain Mizrahi and Billy Mercia were classmates and early bandmates in the Pox in 1967. They also started a clothing business called Truth and Soul, and Sylvain also worked at a different drummer, a clothing store catering to young people, hippies, the flamboyant. After a trip to New York City and a stop at the different drummer, you would know who you are, or at least who you wanted to be. The store was across the street from the New York Doll Hospital. What a coincidence. Johnny Thunders was recruited to play bass, but Sylvain taught him guitar. They called themselves the Dolls, but the band broke up when Sylvain left to spend a few months in London. Thunders was recruited by Kane and Rick Rivets. Thunders suggested Mercia for the drums. In 1971, a rehearsal tape recorded by Rivets was released as Dawn of the Dolls. David Johansen joined. He was a better singer than Thunders. Sylvain returned and replaced Rick Rivets. And I do like saying that. The first gig, Christmas Eve in 1971, at a homeless shelter, the Endicott Hotel management was sought and found and somehow convinced Rod Stewart to invite the Dolls to open for him at a London concert. In England briefly in 1972, Mercia OD'd at a party. He didn't make it. He was 21. Back in New York, a new drummer was auditioned. Candidates included Mark Bell, who would go on to play drums with the Ramones as Marky Ramone. Peter Criscola, also known as Peter Criss, went on to become Kiss's drummer in the future, and Jerry Nolan was selected. Mercury Records signed the Dolls and their first album was cut. Todd Rundgren produced, but he didn't change much since no one could decide on the mixes. or the levels. The album sold, but not quickly. Critics were not yet on board, and fans were, but most of Middle America had no time for a transvestite band with guitars that sounded like lawnmowers. English critics were way off course. They were still indulging the Stones' Exile on Main Street phase, but the Stones liked the Dolls, and their next phase would be Some Girls, and you guessed it, transvestites. The Dolls began work on another album, Too Much Too Soon. That's a nice name. The Dolls liked girl groups like the Chiffons, so they hired Shangri-La's producer George Shadow Morton, but Mercury dropped the Dolls soon after their second album was released. Drugs and alcohol abuse by Thunders, Nolan, and Kane created tensions in the band as they toured to support their two albums. Malcolm McLaren became their manager. He got the Dolls matching red leather outfits and used a red communist flag as a backdrop on stage. They toured the 5 boroughs with Television and Pure Hell. One of the shows was recorded and released as a live album called The Red Patent Leather. Kane was too inebriated to play bass that night, so Peter Jordan, a roadie, played bass, and he continued to step in whenever Kane wasn't available to himself. South Carolina and Florida hosted a mini tour. Jordan replaced Kane and Thunders, and Nolan left after an argument with Johansson. Blackie Lawless replaced him for the rest of the tour, but then the Dolls broke up. They reformed in a few months to tour with Jeff Beck and Felix Pappalardi. Johansson, Sylvain, and Jordan were joined by former Elephant's memory keyboardist Chris Robinson and drummer Tony Machine. Another live album was released from a show in Japan in 1986. The 1975 show at the Beacon Theater was met with great critical acclaim. Yeah. But the band played its last show in '76. After the Florida blow-up, Thunders and Nolan formed the Heartbreakers with ex-Television bassist Richard Hell. Thunders also pursued a brief solo career but died in 1991, an overdose of heroin combined with methadone. Thunders never let on that he suffered from T-cell leukemia. Nolan died the next year following a stroke brought about by bacterial meningitis. You don't want to get that. In '76, Kane and Lawless formed the Killer Kane Band in Los Angeles. Johansson had moderate success as a solo artist under the name Buster Poindexter. Sylvain formed the Criminals, a popular band at CBGB's. Lipstick Killers is a collection of early demos with Billy Murcia and a cassette-only release in 1981. It was re-released on CD and vinyl in 2006. CD Private World included a previously unreleased single called Endless Party. Reunion in 2004 of 3 surviving members, a live LP was recorded, and a documentary film, New York Doll, on the life and art of Arthur Kane. Kane died from leukemia also in 2004. In 2005, 2 surviving members announced a tour and a new album titled One Day It Will Please Us to Remember Even This. 2009, The album, 'Cause I Says So, was produced by Todd Rundgren on Atco Records. The 2011 album, Dancing Backward in High Heels, featuring ex-Blondie guitarist Frank Infante. The band toured with Motley Crue and Poison. Earl Slick on guitar, previously with David Bowie and John Lennon. Bassist Ken Aronson also had toured with Bob Dylan and drummer Jason Sutter, formerly of Foreigner. By 2016, the New York Dolls was finished for good, maybe, probably, but what a show. Here's the discography. 73, New York Dolls. 74, Too Much Too Soon. 2006, One Day. It's got Running Around and a great sleeve art. It's pink, white, and black. This band is obtuse. They contrast everything. And then 09, 'Cause I Says So. It's just so great. You gotta listen to that one. In 2011, Dancing Backward in High Heels, and Buster looks old, not in a good way. Of course, this album is nothing like you thought. It's good, but it's indecipherable. Here's the demo albums. 81, Lipstick Killers. 92, 7-Day Weekend. 2000, Actress. Birth of the New York Dolls. Also in 2000, Endless Party. And 2006, Private World. Here's some live albums. In 84, Red Patent Leather. 93, Paris, Le Trash. In 98, Live in Concert in Paris. In 2, From Paris with Love. 4, Morrissey Presents The Return of the New York Dolls. And in 2008, Live at the Fillmore East. And then 2009, Viva La Trash. And there are 17 compilation albums, and they let go 10 singles in their day. Too Much Too Soon, I guess, what was I, 17? I was really scratching my head, like, why are they dressing like that? What good does that do? Is that a gimmick to get people to notice them? Or are they really like that? I think they were really like that. So, and what's wrong with that? What's wrong with T-Rex and Mark Bolan? And what's wrong with the New York Dolls? Nothing. And if you don't believe me, no, if you don't believe me, you just don't believe me. Thank you all for being with me on Mid-Rock Crisis. Have we saved one band today? I hope so. See you next time. Bye-bye.